Hi, I get people asking about the water pumps on the 6.0 and doing the cooling fan, so I'll try to cover them both here for you. One thing I like to show on this, I'm going to put the Bulletproof one on and replace the Ford. The Ford has a plastic impeller, so we're going to go ahead and replace it with the Bulletproof one. Also, the 03, early 04 6.0 has a smaller diameter water pump, so make sure you have the correct one. And if you do want to upgrade your cooling system at this time, you can replace the front cover and the water pump along with the lower hose. It will fit and give you improved circulation. So just make sure that you have the right diameter of the pump here. And again, if you want to replace it all, go ahead and do a front cover and the lower hose at the same time, and everything else will fit back onto the engine and work for you. So I'll go ahead and go through the procedure of how to do this. We're going to leave the radiator in. We'll pull the shroud and the fan and then get to the pump. I'll show you a couple different ways to remove the fan. One of them here might get it where people start calling me a butcher. I'll show how guys do it with the impact, because I see them all come in that way, and also the proper tools, which way to do it. We're going to drain the coolant, which is already draining on this one. Remove the upper hose, the degas bottle, the vent hose here, and the fan shroud. Also, same as the radiator, we're going to pull the positive cable back and move it out of the way and loosen the brackets here for the radiator. That way we can pull the radiator back towards the body and lift the fan shroud out. So I'm going to go ahead and start on that. It is a little easier with the air filter removed, so I'm going to remove the air filter, and I showed that in other videos. Depending on the year, you either want to loosen it up here on the 06 and up, or the other ones when you have the two-piece, when you have the hose with the plastic piping, you want to loosen it up back here, take it out as one assembly. Just make sure you remove your dipstick before you pull it out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the air filter too on this one. Okay, once we take the starter, the positive cable off right there, we'll put it back there. We're going to move the brackets off the radiator, they're already removed. And we just lift the shroud out, the outer shroud. Sometimes you have to force it a little more than that. Just take it out and be careful around your fan. So we'll lift the shroud out, and I'll put one bolt in each one of these to hold the radiator back in for a second. We'll unplug the cooling fan here. Just push down on it, unplug it there. And up here I take a 15mm shallow socket, 6-inch extension, and I get the upper two fan bolts. So I'll knock them loose on these two. Then on the bottom I won't use an extension. I'll go in with this or with my ratchet here. Okay, down here where you have two bolts on the bottom of the shroud, this one's broke, but normally I just take my 15 and go up in there. You may have a clip on the radiator depending on the year, so to hold the fan on, the hose on. So we have to take the support off the hose here, bolt off here, and another bolt off on this side. Now you may want to be careful if that spins. Just take a 7/8 or a 21mm and hold this back here as it breaks loose, and to prevent this from breaking. The correct way to do this, or the correct tools, you take this hook here. Other guys will just use an extension or a long screwdriver too. We're going to hook the water pump with this, and then we're going to take the wrench here and take the bolt loose and loosen it up here. I'll show you on here. Now again, some guys will just take an extension and stick it through these holes down there on the pulley, and you get, with the fan shroud loose, you just take the wrench here, put it on here and back it up. That's how a lot of people do it. But if the belt's still on there, I've seen other guys where they'll take a 18-inch cold chisel here with their air hammer, and you just knock the edge. These are just regular threads. They're just normal threads and not reverse threads. And you hit the edge and you do it lightly, you can knock the fan loose. So I'll show you both ways here. Okay, now one of the tricks to do it is to make sure you're on the edge. I'm not going to sit there and beat down on the center of this and damage a bearing. I'm replacing the pump anyways. But the trick is to be on the outside edge and just hit it. If we just hit it lightly to move it, then we have it loose. Then once we have it loose, we can take the fan out of there. Another thing I like to point out, even though this one is broke, there's not supposed to be a bolt on there. Some people will put a bolt on there. Normally there's an eyelet here. That's just to hold this up during assembly. So don't put a nut on there. Now before you remove the belt, again, you can use an extension, you can use the proper tool, stick it inside of here, or you can just use that same 24-inch pry bar that I use in just about every video. And while the belt's still on, let's go ahead and loosen up all the bolts here on the pulley, get them all loose, and then we'll take the belt off. On the belt, you can either pull it off and manhandle it, but when it's exposed like this, just take your 1/2-inch drive, push it down, and lock the tang, and that way the tension's off of it, and it's a whole lot easier to do now. I just like to take the belt out of the way, make sure it doesn't get into the coolant. So go ahead and take it off, just because I don't want the coolant on it and get a belt squeak. And the pump just has the 4 bolts that holds it on there. So we just take a 10mm with the extension and do the 4 bolts to get it off. So we'll get the pump here, get the pump off of here. And then once you have the 4 bolts out, just tap it with a hammer. And there it's out. Now again, we're going to replace this plastic type and get it out of there, put the better bulletproof one on there. And I'll see some of them have a lot of corrosion inside of here. So just make sure where your O-ring is going to seal that this is all clean and clear. So now we'll just go ahead and go on with the bulletproof one. Going back on, we have the new O-ring in place. And if you notice here that it does have a specific pattern that it must go on. We have the longer span across here, the closer one here, but also here with the freeze plug is pointed down. And you can match it up and see it here on the cover, which way it goes. So we'll go ahead and just put the pump on, line up our bolt holes. Snug it up and draw it down evenly. Okay, normally what I do is I put the bolt hole straight up at 12 o'clock. That way it's easy to put the pump on, the pulley. So I've got that at 12 o'clock. I can just bring it down. And the same thing, just put that in there and line it up. Makes it a lot easier if you get an orientation that you're aware of. Same thing, just tighten the bolts all up here, hold it back while you tighten it up. And once you have the belt back in the proper place, you can just pull on it, release the clip, then it's back. We just put the fan in as an assembly. I have the fan inside of there. Just lower it down. If it had the eyelet on it, it'd be a whole lot easier, but that's broke. We'd hang it on that and then get the fan started. This one's going to be a little bit harder, being all broken up. Now if you have the eyelet up there and it's all hanging, I had to start a couple bolts to get this one. Then you just take your fan, put it in the right spot, and usually there's enough resistance to get it started. And once you get it started, of course, be careful, the fan is sharp. You can cut your hand doing this. My hands are so calloused over the years, I've gotten used to it. And now that I have resistance, you want to tighten that too. Usually what I'll do, same thing, just take my air hammer, catch it on the right side, and just lightly tap it. That's it, that's all it takes. Now it won't come loose. And we're fine. We're going to take these back off. That way I can move it back and put my shroud back on. With it back, as far as it can be, we're going to go ahead and put the shroud on. You just want to watch your fan wires as you go down. Bring it down, get it started pretty much by your hose nipples right here. Now go underneath, pull my tabs out and draw this down. So I'm going to go underneath. You know, we'll take the tabs, they're going to come down from the shroud and go into this area here on the radiator. So I just take them, pull them. Sometimes it helps to have an assistant above, but if you don't have anybody, just pull it out. I'm grabbing up here and then pull it down. So you can see I have it lined up. Now I'm able to go back above. Okay, we've got the shroud back in place. Just take your positive cable, stick it back in here and route it properly. If these are all still here, put them back on. Then we'll go ahead and put the rest of the bolts in and get this back together. When you're going back on with any of the hose clamps, try to find the marks where it used to be before, because otherwise it's not a perfect sealing surface on the hose and on the clamp. And if you don't have them lined up, you could get a little leaks across here. So try to line them back up. Add your coolant, check the leaks, you're back on the road. These videos help you out. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.